Blackson in the hizzle, all with shizzle dizzle. We got an excellent show here today. We're already into it. What's going on, Nature Mom? What's going on, Nature Mom? I'm getting
Happy to
pushed.
see you guys. We missed you. I missed you guys. Yeah,
We miss you, Nature Mom. Miss you,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
I'm glad that your schedule allowed,
Schedule, I don't
to come
know.
back in.
I'm in a place where schedule is it's the least acknowledged element in a
Really?
person's life around here. No,
Oh, right.
yeah, no,
Now that
schedule
makes
is
sense,
not
right?
a when you I think you're from the West. Schedule is very important. We're
Is it
productive, productivity trained. Over
right?
here, they don't their productivity is not the highest
Priority.
priority. Mm-mm. No.
Okay, that kind of relates to the topic,
Okay.
because I think that I think that should be priority. Not only should that be a priority, but I just told you that we've had numerous derailments here in America, Ohio, Texas, and some other places. We've
The
had
train
like train
derailments, yes.
derailments, right, right. And
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to this because recently on a job, we got shut down because of somebody turning over a truck. And I got on
Mm-hmm.
a discussion the other day about prison reform, meaning, okay, so, people got all in their feelings and up in arms about it, but we have a large population of people being incarcerated and
Okay.
coming out. And I think we just discussed people being in prison having certain like type of labor skills,
Mm-hmm.
but they utilize them when they're in there in prison, but when they come out, they don't utilize them. And now we're having I think this all connects together. The derailment of the trains, the trucks, the lack of there are basically what is the backbone of our economy is labor. People coming from all over the world, you know, participating in the labor force.
Okay.
So my thing is, why not have prison reform towards the inmates? And I know
Mhm.
me and you kind of discussed, it, and I trust me. I only had pushback from you, I had pushback from MD, had a pushback from DTO, and I'm just like, yo, but it's. I mean, it would seem that the solution is right there. The solution,
Okay. Okay, so I think that one of the things I love that you said about somebody all in their feelings. Black son, you
right,
love
right.
to be all up in your feelings,
I know her.
and you love it. And the bottom line is, economy doesn't care about our feelings.
Right.
And that's the bottom line. That's why they can allow these derailments to happen. That's why they spent so much time training, or let's say force training these
Hmm.
prisoners to provide a cheap or free labor force while
Right.
incarcerated. But now that they are free men, the economy doesn't want to support their gained skillfulness.
Hmm.
So that I believe is by intention, because the bottom line is when capitalists are looking at and we're not talking about like amateur, because I think that like when we use this word capitalism, there are degrees. Like everything's on a spectrum, right? And there's a spectrum of capitalism. Uh-oh, did we lose you, Black Sun? Are you with
No,
us?
sir. Uh oh.
Don't leave me by myself.
Uh
Okay,
oh.
I'm gonna do my best, just to keep going and hope that you come back.
Oh shit.
But when we're talking about capitalism, we're talking about it on a spectrum, and this spectrum
Can you
goes
see me?
from in this modern day. I see you waving. You're
Can you,
back.
okay. Okay. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
back.
Can you hear me?
Okay,
Can you hear
great.
me?
I
Check.
hear
Check.
you.
Check. Okay. Okay. I
You're
don't know what.
you're
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
you're in lifetime. Yeah, you just went out.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
but
Damn.
it's all about, especially at this particular time, very similar to 2008, very similar to 2011, very similar to in 2009. uh, um, this particular time is all about trying to recover as many gains as possible. The shareholders getting as many of their dividends, and companies holding on to their shareholders as much as possible during these very difficult and speculative times. And
Hmm.
so does that mean we're looking for the highest quality of labor at this time? No, it means that we're just looking for labor to continue to get through these difficult times.
Right.
So so hi guys, I missed you guys too. Sorry about all the schedule mishaps. It's really been a crazy time. Some family issues had to come first lately,
Absolutely.
especially like mental health issues. So like and when you're dealing with finding supports in a country that you're not used to, language you're not used to, people you're not used to, system you're not used to, it takes much more time. So sorry to take that time away from you guys, but I'm just happy to always share and learn and grow with you guys. So
Right.
just want to say hi, big shout outs to everybody out there today. I know we're gonna see Deacon and Twins sometime soon.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But yeah.
Oh, my,
So go ahead.
oh
Is
no,
your
no,
mic in?
yeah, yeah, yeah. My connection keeps going in and out. I don't know what's going
I
on
can hear
today.
it.
Okay,
Yeah, I
okay,
can
cool,
totally
cool.
hear it.
Okay, all right.
And
Just
my
let me
my
know because
connection's okay?
your connection's good. It's my end
Okay.
that's doing the
Okay.
weirdness today. Yeah. So
It's usually the reverse, so
yeah, yeah.
uh,
So
s-
no, but you're good. You're good.
yeah. So I think it's really interesting because I didn't hear about the local news about the derailments. So I'm getting that from you for the first time right now, but not surprised at all. Because I think your argument is, if we have people that we've trained and that are skilled and who
Hmm.
can navigate, this area of business, why aren't we doing it? And who are we putting in place instead of them? And so my question is, do you know who they're putting in place instead of the prisoners who've been, trained through these different tasks, the ones who have been transporting for the military, for private corporation, for, local militia police, and for local corporations? Who are they hiring in place? Because let's just put out there, the only reason why they're hiring them instead is because there's some kind of like cost effectiveness for them
Right.
to increase profits in this particular time.
Um. Right. So bottom line, they're looking for cheap labor. I get it. So you leave cheap labor up to people operating trains. But I don't know why I'm acting surprised because, like I said, just on the job I was contracted, we had somebody flip over a truck, and I'm just like, wow, and it hit me personally, Nature Mom, because it shut down the job that I was at. So I was like, dang. And so when I started seeing these truck arraignments, I got on here on the internet and I started talking about prison reform, and I got a big pushback. Big pushback. There goes Deacon. Deacon's in the house. Deacon,
Mhm.
share and subscribe. Well, share and like. Share the video. Share the video. I see four in the clouds. I need four likes. I need shares. Come on, y'all. Let's multiply these numbers. So,
So,
Nature Mom. Okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, back to cheap labor, right? I mean, absolutely. I mean, and let's say like, um, is there any discrepancy if it even costs, lives? Um,
Hmm.
how what's the policy these days? The policy is to put out a public apology and then to continue with business as usual.
Right.
Um, so there's not really any actual
Incentives.
like real remorse. It's just like, okay, you guys saw what we did, so let's just be a little bit more stealth and figure out how we're gonna continue to bring cheap labor in. And let me just give you guys a global perspective on this. Globally, don't count on your jobs. These jobs, I think Enron showed us that in 2011. Your job is not secure. And as
Right,
time has moved on from that era, jobs are less and less secure globally.
right,
They will bring in the cheapest labor possible. I'll share with you guys a very simple, situation. We have a gardening team here where I'm living, and this gardening team, I, I just wanted him to move a lime tree from one side of the yard to the other because the side
right,
of the tree where they planted the lime tree, it was completely dry. It's total sand,
right.
so you can't even get enough acid because lime, lemon trees,
Hmm.
they love acidic soil, and I
So
just
the green
wanted
fly
you
trap. Yep.
yeah, so I
You do
just
know
wanted you to move the tree from the side where your water hose connections were broken and they're not working. Their drip system is
that. Right.
absolutely disconnected and not working. I've been here for almost 2 years, so let's say at least a year and a half at this point, and that tree hasn't gotten a drop of water unless I've given it to it in a year and a half. And I just asked, please, can you transplant this tree from this side of the yard where it's a barren desert to the second side of the yard where the hoses are still connected and it can at least get a drip once a week? And the gardener, I mean, not speaking English, told us through translator, nope, you can't transplant that tree because if you transplant that tree, it will die. Now, I
Wow.
little does he know, I'm studying not only microbiology, biology, but particularly, the structure, the function, the genome, everything of plants right now. So you're
Right.
trying to tell me, Mr. Gardner, that if we move this tree from one location where it's drying out and it's not fruiting and it's not blossoming to another part of the yard where it's going to get better lighting and it's going to get actual water, that it's going to die. So, bottom line in that scenario, thank you for your opinion. Move the tree, and the tree is flourishing.
Oh, so it didn't die.
But
Okay, good news.
of
Okay.
course, it not only did it not die, it's totally flourishing right now. It's getting more greenery fast. It's
Oh,
growing very
wow.
quickly.
Okay.
And this is after he kind of pushed back, and I had to push a little bit harder and say,
Right.
okay, you're not a gardener because this is basic biology here. And so I had to,
Wow.
yeah, I had to
Okay.
throw some biology out there,
I see where you're
and
going
uh,
with this.
and the
Yeah.
tree is moved. So the point is, this guy's not a gardener, you guys. He's just a cheap
Right.
labor
Just
that
cheap
was
labor.
hired to clean up the yard, call himself a gardener by title because that's what this cheap wage is going to hire him for, and he has no actual horticultural background, no botany background. He has no basic gardening background. I mean, I would choose any gardener in United States, in LA, the guy with the lawnmowers over him any day because they actually know how a plant is going to live. So, thanks, Deacon. Yeah, I do care. you
So,
know,
um,
so relating this,
yeah. I mean, I see where you're going with it, and I'm like I said, I'm seeing it every day here in the U.S. Obviously, you're seeing it over there, and actually, Deacon made a very good point. He said, "Did you hear about the major companies in the U.S. getting busted for child labor?" I'm seeing a lot of that too. I'm seeing actually Deacon. That's funny he says that because I'm seeing a lot of young people at the grocery stores, like
so
not
Deacon,
even
my
in high school.
question to you is this child labor bust within the US, or is this where they're actually finding, like, I mean, we're talking about, 6, 7, 8, 9 year olds globally, US companies hiring them for hard labor. We're talking about over 12 hours of work. So I'm curious about that,
Right, right. We'll wait for his
you know.
response. I think he's
So
talking about here in the U.S. because I'm seeing that a lot. Like I said, I'm seeing the people get
so
younger and younger. Like not even
it
in high school. I remember when I went to Publix, I seen two of them that were not even in high school.
Okay, so there's a like duality there because let's say
He said it within the U.S. Yep, Deacon said within the U.S. So yeah,
within
and
the US.
I can verify that. Yeah.
So let's say, like, when I was 9 years old, I volunteered. I volunteered for a hospital, and I worked for this hospital, very well known hospital in Los Angeles, and I worked for
Okay.
them for 6 years. So actually, all of my time working for this hospital gave me extended credits for graduation. Hi, twin. And it was a great life experience for me. It was great for earning these life earned credits in the educational system. And would that happen today? Probably not. Could you see a hospital hiring a 9-year old today? But
Right.
I
Right.
I volunteered for this job. I wanted this job, and it was really a pivotal point of my life that carried me to understanding the personality I have to this day. So, like, I'm very grateful that the United States was one of the few places in the world that would offer a kid who had such focus, such an opportunity. You won't see that anywhere else in the world. I've looked for it and it's not available. So that's one thing, right? So we're
Right.
talking
Right.
about services that mentor young people who are ambitious, and they know how to utilize this in ways that it benefits them and it benefits the youth. I mean, most people graduate from high school with 160 credits, and I think I graduated with like 290 credits just because of this job experience.
Okay.
Um,
And I remember it was discussed before that I don't know. I want to refer to somebody who said that the McDonald jobs are actually meant for teenagers for them.
yeah. Yes, it
And
was a great program. I mean, I remember
okay,
this was like in the early 80s that they started
yeah,
this job, training program. I remember that as well.
okay. So then,
Now,
um,
was it a little bit of exploitation in there? Of course. But at the same time, it really gave young people who had some ambition, or
right,
let's say parents who had a good relation with their kids and was able to give them a little push, to not just sit on Atari all day,
right,
to get their kids involved in community activities that benefited them. I appreciate stuff like that. I really do. I mean, here where we are, it's not easy, but I have a friend who can help my kids, let's say, pick up dog and cat poop and feed them water and food, and this gives them some life skills.
hmm,
But at the same time, is it exploitive for the company? They get free to cheap labor, mostly free when you're underage. But at the same time, are they teaching some community skills, some social skills, some active skills that these young people can use in the future? And
right,
not only that, this work that I did from 9 years old all the way to 16. It helped me to get
right,
my first jobs. It helped me to know how to interview. It helped me. I was already, a young, student who knew how to file, type, organize.
right,
I walked into the world with skills behind me because of this experience. So, like, is there good and bad to everything? We can always focus on one spectrum, but when we look at it, everything as a whole, um, there are positives and negatives if used the right way. Now, when we talk about like just completely exploitive, actions where you are using, children under the table, when you are, let's say, not giving them equal benefits to the amount of labor that they're doing, that's just wrong,
right.
and should corporations get away with it? Absolutely not. But I do think that we do get something as young people from having opportunities that are not being presented today that were presented in the past.
Okay,
So back to our main topic, where we're dealing with adults, and adults who are skilled versus adults who are not skilled. I think that I think that this is a completely, exploitive practice. Um, and these corporations are taking advantage of it. Why? One, because you have many more people who are from third world countries that realize and they calculate generationally, and we've talked about this before, the benefit of having just a degree within their family structure. So the
Right.
whole family will work for this one person to have the degree, because once this one person has a degree, then it's the opportunity for the next person in their family to have a degree, and they bring wealth into the family. Now, whether or not your degree actually gives you skills is not a factor. It's not important right now, because
Right.
believe me, I've talked to a lot of people with higher degrees that can't even write a paper. So,
Hmm.
I think that that's interesting. Paper versus skill set. I think that's why you're having these derailings. When you've got all these prisoners who have skill set, but they're not being hired just because they're ex-prisoners. I mean, that's just discrimination. You are choosing who's going to be gainfully employed in the future and who is going to be held back because you have a prejudice against it.
So I mentioned earlier labor reform, and you had gave the emojis like laughing. You were like, why is that I guess that such a taboo? Not only with labor reform, prison reform, like all this stuff, and I know it's laughable, but it's like, are we
Um, okay, so the term labor reform, I did send you a laughing face emoji, because what is reform? Labor reform is happening right now. They're reforming everyone who is able to get a job without a high school degree.
right?
Without
Okay,
a college degree, and they've been reforming them out of work for the last 30
wow,
years.
okay,
So the reform is already happening. So when you say the term
right.
labor reform, it's already happening. I don't think that the labor reform that they are discussing versus the one you're discussing.
Right. Okay. That is laughable. Okay. Okay.
You
So
know, so
they have
labor reform is in effect. It's just whether or not you agree with the effect.
right. Well, how do we reform the reform then? I guess that'd be
Ah,
my next question.
okay. So if you want to reform the reform, become the
Yeah.
leaders.
Oh gosh. Okay. So here on YouTube lately, had there's been a real sandstorm of like, okay, so now, oh man, I want to show you. I gotta send you MD's video. MD did a video stating that the United States gave us portions as African Americans land. The 40 acres and the mule that was given, but apparently somehow we didn't act upon it. I don't know, or we
They
act
didn't
upon it
send
and
me
say
anything in the mail,
right. Okay, your ancestors, your
because I
forefathers.
certainly would have taken my piece of
Oh,
land. Thank you
right.
very much. I would have sent them a happy face emoji back.
Right. So, I mean, if
Yeah.
these things are still on the books, then I mean, can they still be acted upon if they're still on the books?
I mean, I think that we've also discussed this before some time back, in the very beginning of me joining the discussion. Uh, let's say, yeah, okay, so I don't know even how to say this in a very eloquent way, but so I'm not going to try. I'm just going to be very raw and candid here.
Okay.
So um, first of all, the best way to demolish this reformation that's been talked about since what 1886 is to actually undermine the system that supports it. And that system has been undermined since the beginning.
Hmm.
So, um, let's say with the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, um, and with the system, because it wasn't, they didn't assassinate him because he was promoting, that black people should be gainfully reconciled, right? They got rid of him because he was promoting the greenback, and the
Right.
greenback is the new economic system, even
Yeah.
though it's old to us now, but it's the new economic system of that time.
Right.
This system was promoting that were promoting senators, black senators, many members, many council members who were of ex-slave descendants that were supposed to come into the cabinet and that were going to support him. So what they did was they completely um, ambush that political system. They assassinated him, and they did everything possible to not make that economic system more powerful than the Confederate system that lost the current war.
Right.
And the aim was to make sure that the Confederates gained, even if it was ink by ink, as much power back as possible, which is the current system we live in now. So we are in a, let's say, Confederate supported system, which is why we had Jim Crowism, which is why we had, so many, issues like redlining and, what was the term? I don't want to say blacklisting, which is where the term comes from, by the way, but the idea that, certain Americans who were not of white skin would get positions, um, would get land, would get opportunities, working opportunities over people who did not look like them.
Right.
Gerrymandering. Thank
That's it.
you.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep. He just
oh,
learned it. Yep.
thank you. I mean, just show you.
Thank God.
I needed some help. I'm losing words, you guys. Really, thank you. Ah, yeah. So yeah, this was put in place intentionally. This was, so when I hear people today talk about, generational wealth, and,
Right.
how, there's this huge gap in generational wealth. I
Right.
mean, guys, I mean, those of you from LA, read about the Pico line, Pico Avenue,
Right.
Pico Boulevard, sorry. There was an actual line drawn on this street where people of color were not even allowed to cross over. This was intentional, and yet when we talk about generational wealth today, um, there's no way to even address that issue without, very clearly drawing the line to where this was intentional. Government was involved, local, federal, state government was involved. And so when we talk about this gap, well, this gap was created very similar to where this conversation about, the 40 acres
Right. Yeah.
and the mule for, ex-slaves was also drawn and then annihilated.
Right.
So what's happening today, you have all of these people telling you, and I know I keep coming back to it, but now the conversation is, nobody really knows even who they are, what gender they are. And
Right.
you will soon, own nothing. You'll be happy, you'll eat bugs, you'll enjoy it, and you won't need to be reprimanded. You won't need reformations, because everybody will be on an equal line, even if it's still not equal.
So then there's this talk about separation, separating from the United States.
Separating
And
to where?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but yeah, that's if y'all can't tell we brothers and sisters now, y'all should be able to tell now. Right. Separate where I've been saying that, Nature Mom. Yeah. And the thing is, yeah, they talk about separating and right, separate where. But my let's just entertain the thought. You just want to have fun. You want to entertain the thought.
I mean, please, I want you to entertain me. Where are we going? Because I'll buy the tickets. But when you tell me
Okay,
where we're going, where we will actually be considered, viable landowners, viable, citizens.
okay.
I'm very curious. Where does
We're
that
gonna
exist?
separate to Blackland. We're gonna separate the Blackland. Right. I know you're drawing a blank. So I guess you know what. I guess the only thing left is to what the Ukrainians are doing: fight for
Mm.
independence. Because I don't see where there's an
No.
available land anywhere in the
I'm
world.
sorry. That's not what the Ukrainians are doing. The
Okay,
Ukrainians are also being gerrymandered. They are being totally they're
regendified.
being they're being guised. Um and their leadership has sold them out. I mean, my opinion and from
No,
the
you
research
don't
that I've
say.
done.
Right, you don't say.
So yeah, what are they getting
Oh,
in the end? They're gonna get to also they're gonna be the pillar system, from what I'm understanding, of um living in properties that they don't own, and working for a labor system that they can't control, and eating bugs and being happy, and they will be our ground zero of this. So no,
oh, so they're
I
gonna be the
don't.
ground zero for the rest of the world, is what you're saying?
BlackRock is buying up all of the property that's being destroyed right now.
Of course, of course, of course, of course, of
And
course.
if I mean, if BlackRock has so much money, why can't they support the efforts versus just buying the property that no one can purchase right now because it's useless? you
Right,
know
prime real estate. Boom, send the bombs over there. Boom, boom. Oh yeah. Oh my god, genius, genius.
so
Genius.
I mean, come on, like, I think that we all learned from Iraq, Iran. America couldn't even get the last consonant straight, so just bomb both of them, right?
Right.
And what was the outcome in the end? When we're looking at Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, the surrounding regions, is that they are barely on the brink of survival over there, as far as
I'm glad you mentioned
commerce and
Afghanistan.
economy.
Totally failed state. Totally failed state. I remember I saw a plane trying to lift off, and you had people grabbing onto the wings,
I mean,
like
and then we
grabbing on.
wonder why,
God, that's just
when
so
we grace them with our vacation money, why they're just not like, yay, come hang out with us, we're so happy to have you here.
right,
Because we've destroyed their lifestyles, and we've destroyed their culture, we've destroyed their economy as a country.
right.
And not just America. There were, England was involved. There were so many Western
Absolutely,
states that were a part of this. There were so many Eastern states that were a part of this. When you talk about proxy war, I think that this one should go right under Webster's dictionary.
absolutely.
No, and did the people benefit? No, they are only preparing to be the workers and the laborers for other countries, which is what they are right now, you guys. I'm
Right.
living amongst them. I see what they have to do in order to survive, and make sure that their parents and their grandparents are eating to at least to their death, how ever demising it may be.
So how do we? Because you're talking about labor, and I remember you told me that you have people there who are privileged to be citizens that have to come over here to America, where you're from, by the way, to get good medical treatment. But you, as an American citizen living over there, can't get the same type of because you're not a citizen of over there. That
Because
interesting
I'm
paradigm, and
I'm not a citizen.
right.
Here, they want to take care of their citizens, and let's
Even though
say,
it's American dollars getting them over here for their care and then sending them back over there.
not necessarily.
No.
No, I mean, let's
Okay.
say maybe through business relations,
Okay.
but through like public funding. The public funding is coming directly from their ministries, and the difference is, like, in America. we have our citizens who just need basic care, basic, pregnancy deliveries,
Right.
basic cold care, diabetes care, and they can't get anything.
Right.
And where the citizens over here, when they need treatment and they realize their ministry realizes that they are not, let's say, inept to give them the proper treatment that could possibly move towards full recovery, they will pay and give a stipend, or should we say scholarship in the case of education,
Right.
for this person to get full treatment from countries where they know that this technology is developed. So
Okay.
yeah, it really shows the difference. I mean, I know that there's a difference in population size,
Right.
but there's also a difference in, let's say, value of the individual citizens in the eyes of the government.
Right.
Every citizen is very valuable to them and for their future. And I think that that lacks in the United States. Maybe because the United States, spent so much time trying to define who is and who isn't American, even though most of the people making those policies aren't original Americans. Um,
Oh, what?
but
Say, wait, whoa, whoa, what?
I mean,
How can
compared to the
non-Americans
native
make
people,
policies?
no.
Wait a minute. Hold
And
up. Hold up. You mean you got a bunch of Arnold Schwarzeneggers in our government?
I mean, when you talk about Arnold, I mean, one, I am a Terminator. I will defend him to the end.
No, I
you
mean,
know, but
right, right. I know. All
also
right.
let me be
Okay.
very clear that for
Okay.
American citizens, his constituency was one of the best for American citizens from my point of view. And
Okay.
let's say my point of view is not just from my personal gain, because I did gain personally, my children gained personally because of the policies that he put in place to help people, but also, his constituency helped a lot of people who were disabled, where you're not getting those aids anymore. Matter of fact, the minute the next governor came into place, they disconnected all of the numbers to public health that was happening at that time.
Right. Um.
I
So
agree. Bizzle, I have to say that under Democratic reign, I'm not surprised. Democrats really, Democrats try to really sell to us this idea of, like, equal say and equal opportunity. But what I'm seeing is that they're all flying on private jets and eating at, expensive restaurants, while the rest of us are paying the bill for it.
okay, Nature Mom. Because it seems like we can all tie this into labor.
Absolutely.
Um. Let me shift gears just real quick, just for a quick second.
Okay.
Let's talk about fuel. Let's talk about oil, gas. Let's talk about how. You know what? Hold on, hold on. I'm gonna put this fuel aside. I'm gonna mention Africa real quick. I want to touch on Africa.
Okay. Africa.
Africa are making protests around the world talking about the French president is a murderer, this and that, and they're waving Russian flags, pictures of Putin. Do you know about this?
I'm
Haiti.
not aware of that.
Oh,
I'm not
okay,
aware of
okay,
that. I mean,
okay.
but
Maybe
let's
I need
say,
to.
if I just draw on a little bit of history,
Uh
Belgium, France, England, U.S.,
Well, we
pretty
know
much
what they did
every
historically,
Germany,
right? Yeah,
they've all been doing this since the beginning of time, and Portugal, Spain.
right,
Their wealth was built on siphoning it from other countries, particularly
right,
Africa.
right, right. So they have declared this French as a murderer, and I guess you're seeing waves of protests around the
Okay.
continent and, of course, Haiti, of all
And
places,
based on an event, or
based on, I guess, events, yeah, based, I guess, on several events. Well, let me, I guess we got to take it back to EU. We got to take it back to people love Russian petroleum around the world. They love it. They
I
love,
mean,
love,
not
love,
that they
love, love it.
no, it's not that they
No?
love it. It's that they are dependent upon it, and the U.S., and British, and other Western tactics to bypass, having to go through the route of Russia isn't working. That's why many countries, India recently,
Uh-huh.
many countries are making deals outside of the treaty
Right,
to
right,
get resources to their people. And I think that that's just the thing is that, what I see is that a lot of countries on the Western side, they make very strong public media stances about sanctioning Russia and standing against their immoral behavior, of course never highlighting their own immoral behaviors, um, but also really leaving the citizens at duress. So we're talking about, we know that France was going through blackouts,
right.
and from I don't remember exact the hours, but somewhere
Well,
between like 1 a.m. until 6 a.m. without any power whatsoever. That would
right.
never happen in the United States without a huge unrest
Pushback. That's
from
right.
the
Yeah,
citizens, right?
that's right.
Um, I
Well,
mean,
no, I gotta hold on. I gotta do.
okay.
There's big pushback in Germany. Big pushback in Germany. In fact, you got a lot of pro Putin pushback in Germany right now. You got a lot of pro rallies in Europe, pro Putin rallies because, and I'm only guessing, Nature Mom, because they want some of that petroleum because they're getting
Yeah,
the
they're
petroleum anyway.
probably sick of freezing.
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
number
it
one,
was a
yeah,
cold winter
yeah,
in Europe this year.
right,
A
right, right.
particularly cold. I mean, we're not talking about like,
Yeah, we're talking about
Rochester,
freezing.
New York cold. We're talking like snow. And I was living in Europe for over 10 years. I've never seen the snow up to here, and that's where it was this year. And so I moved out just in time
Absolutely,
to a wonderful and nearly tropical, environment.
right,
Who is, let's say, also not, they're not claiming pro Russia, but they're also not claiming, against Russia either. And they keep good relations with both Russia and U.S.
right, right,
Uh,
right,
so just saying that on the media front, things can be presented to citizens one particular way, um, but behind the lines there are many other things happening. And let's say if any of these countries can bypass the West or Russia, they would. But the bottom line is that there is a dependency, and in order to fuel the energy systems that have been into place to this point, yeah, Russia is still quite needed. And to make anybody, including American citizens, think that not even America or Britain is gaining any Russian fuel right now in any way, shape, or form is completely erroneous.
So because I've seen it firsthand. I've seen like where Russia still deals with Turkey, they still deal with India, China, and whoever Russia is still dealing with, who is ignoring the embargoes. Okay, so this is Russia. This is okay. This is Russia. These are the countries they're dealing with, right? And Germany's dealing with those countries that are dealing with Russia.
I mean, and let's say, like, I don't think that U.S. is not also, making sure that big corporations are losing because they want to support embargoes. I don't believe that that's the case.
Hmm. Oh, hold on. I gotta. Notice how China is keeping a low profile with Russia. They want to keep those options open. Uh, I don't
Oh, because China has big
know.
dependency on US bailouts right now because their economic system is tanked and they needed that US money, but are they, it's like, your guy around the block, he is like, hooked up with Jenny, but don't say that he's not still seeing Sarah.
Right.
Um there's still huge relationships on both sides, and
Mhm.
China needs every bailout they can get right now.
See, this is why I'm a little leery about the English media because what I've been told, Empress, is that there's no low profile. They're open and they are down with Russia. There are no qualms about it. So I don't know what they're saying in England. If you want to hit that, I don't know if you can hit the link or not, but apparently that I think that's what they're feeding Empress down there. That well, it's low profile, this and that. No, Xi Jinping is very open about his relationship with Putin, and not shamed about it either. In fact,
I think that
they,
all of the Orient is very clear that they have
yeah,
not closed their relationships. And when I say all of the Orient, Middle East
India,
included, they
that's right.
haven't closed. And you would think that they're direct competition. No, they have to work together because it's not just about the oil and the energy resources that are being received. It's also about pathways to get goods from one side to another.
Right.
Kazakhstan can't do anything without going through Russian territory.
Facts.
There's like Russia is a
Well,
huge territory.
that whole airspace, right? And that's why. Oh my gosh, Nature Mom, you talk about the airfares going up, yeah, because they both have said, oh, EU said you can't use our airspace, Russia said you can't use ours, so that means we got to go all the way around to Alaska, all the way. That the fuel is going to, man, the fuel is going to be outrageous. Trying to stop.
What do you think that people have been paying for since the beginning of this fuel rise?
I mean, and now,
All of those goods that everybody is dependent upon, they set the, and we're talking about just from an economic point of view, these professionals and these economic, these economic experts, they've been preparing for that from the beginning. So you've been paying that cost that they're expecting on the long run
right,
from the very beginning of speculation. And
right, and the
whether their relationships between the lines are being negotiated behind curtains and being dealt with in closets does not change the fact that you are still going to pay for that speculation.
right. It's just like they want to, the plan here in America, their 10-year plan is to ship liquefied natural gas from the U.S. all the way to Germany. That's their plan.
But why would they do that when Qatar has been putting a system in place since the late 1960s? 1968, I think they built
Uh huh.
one of the most innovative systems, started the movement towards building the system that actually worked. So why would US?
And
I
why
mean, this is
would
basically saying that, like,
Russia can make the
you
same
know,
argument and say, well, why go through Qatar when ours is right next to Finland
and
and the
and
Baltic
and
regions?
that's just the thing, is that, like, it's not working exactly as it's being presented in media, because when we're talking about cost effectiveness, um they have definitely put a high cost, even speculative costs, on consumers, but they can't put it all on consumers just yet.
Right.
So, there is some, like, buffer that's happening between the lines, you guys. I mean, there's no way that China is going to get fuel all the way from, here, or all the way from US, when they can get it directly from their neighbor.
Right.
So I think that, that just takes a lot of common sense of understanding that, and we've known it for a long time, you guys, that, like, media is technology, and media works together, to manipulate your basic points of view within your region, the way that you judge and think about other cultures of people in business. I mean, that's just basic sociology right there, right?
Hmm.
Um, but to actually think that, they're going to inconvenience themselves and their businesses and their corporations to take a hit when they're already showing you within the country themselves, they're going to bring in cheap labor from outside. They've been doing it since, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the call rooms, the call centers,
Right.
instead of
I do.
Dell and, a
Yeah.
lot of those companies, using labor, young labor they could have used, learning opportunities for young people, right?
Right.
Also could have been a cheap labor alternative, but instead they shipped it all the way out to outsourcing
India.
countries, and
Yeah.
they've been doing it ever since. And it's, you know, let's look at who our major CEOs of all these big companies are. Do you think that that happened because they are rising people up from within, or is this rising people up from within where they've already been operating, which is well outside of the United States?
Right. Right.
Uh, Absolutely. You know, I mean, not just India, there is huge child labor issues everywhere, all over the world, where labor is being outsourced, particularly Bangladesh, India, I mean, China's huge in child
Absolutely.
labor.
China. Yeah.
Um, so it's only in United States where child labor and in European Union where child labor is covered up
Right.
for morality reasons. It doesn't mean it's not happening. They're just better at using
Right.
their media
Camouflaging it.
sources to camouflage. Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um. So. Um. Damn. Let's see. What does U.S. manufacture now that would be way to generate communities? Oh. What do we
I
generate now?
well,
Empress wants.
Ooh. Oh, okay. So we generate tickets for countries and for outside countries and huge corporations to come in and buy up real estate and to buy up commerce in United States so that uh, we can generate more and more homeless people, homeless citizens.
Right.
Um, so yeah, what are we generating in US? A lot of undereducated or overeducated, underemployed individuals who can't be gainfully employed.
Wow.
Cheap labor absolutely wins, Deacon. I mean, and I
Absolutely.
think that that is like, if we're honest with ourselves, that is where we're going in the future more and more. We are not going to win this game if we don't have alternative and useful labor systems that work outside of the major labor system right now. Because absolutely, you know, there is very little ethics in business, especially international business. You can
Right.
expect that all of the jobs that your fathers, and we can already see it, the type of jobs your fathers were able to get are already gone because they're being taken by cheaper labor that you know maybe they're documented, maybe they're undocumented, but more than likely they are not first citizens, they're not second citizens of the particular country, and they have much more opportunity to that employment opportunity than you do.
Okay, so you talk about labor of our fathers. So, because a lot of people here on YouTube, they keep skipping over the Detroit era, the General Motors, where
Mm.
families, the average families, middle class, were. I think we were on. Black people were on top of the food chain during the Vietnam War, during the California dock jobs, during the General Motors. Like, what happened to? Well, first of all, can we acknowledge that to start with?
Mm, I mean,
People from
so if
around
your
the
question
world.
is why did I think Boeing is a really good example of that type of era, like this
Okay.
General Motors Boeing era, right?
All right.
So,
So
when
we
Boeing,
do not we do agree that black people were on top of that food chain. We were the top income earners at
um,
that boom.
I'll put it this way. We'll say that, like, usually American companies hired American people. That
Okay.
was the census,
Okay.
and that's why
Okay.
I brought Boeing into this conversation,
Okay. Good.
because
Good. Okay.
Boeing was it was a company that was very dead set on using, their local labor, using their national labor, their national experts, and creating a product that was based on the voice, and the democracy, the employment democracy
Ooh,
of the people who were building these products for a quality product that Americans on a whole could stand behind. So you can
right.
also, call that out when you say General Motors. This was like an American brand that,
Right.
the rest of the world would pay, for to have this quality. And so, what has happened since? Boeing had to compete against Airbus. And what
Oh.
they did, when that competition came in, was the first thing they did was they took away the voices of the engineers. They took
Right.
away that family, very community oriented type of labor practice,
Okay.
that supported the local communities. The same thing that you can see, happen in Ford, General Motors, and whatever resources could be outsourced were. And this is very much the way of doing business today. You have a smaller team that's working on the conceptualization and problem solving, as far as like creating a more competitive product. But when it
Right.
comes to actual assembly and customer service, and many different areas of this product, you're going to very easily fish, this part of your labor source out, and let some third, fourth party company handle it, which is usually not based in the United States at all. And so this is a way, this business model is documented. It's you can look up some of your university and business textbooks that are going to share this idea with you, as a model for business and its benefits as a business. So, when Empress asked the question, what does America manufacture now? Um, I mean, what can we say I mean, maybe let's say back in the 90s, I could say, okay, top quality textile, not textiles, but the actual, finished, um, you know, um, product of like American ragsai. You could talk about like American apparel. These were what they were selling at that time, were American products that you can count on having actual, like, morality behind it. um Quality and morality. Can we say these days that we can find this quality and morality as a selling point in products anymore? No, because it's not economically efficient. What's economically efficient is making sure that shareholders are getting as much as they can behind their dividends, because without them, having assurance that their dividends are going to pay off, they're selling their shares off and they're going with companies that can guarantee them a better dividend return. And this is much more viable these days. Um, I think that a lot of people are just looking for how they can secure themselves and gain wealth as much as possible. So, American products, it's a niche. It's not a standard like it was, let's say 30, 40 years ago. So niche industries, they aren't, let's say, on the highest scale when we're looking
Right.
at products that can, like Coca-Cola, that can be produced and distributed from any country in the world. Yes, they sell you an image, they sell you an idea, they sell you a history, but the actual product itself is being manufactured in multiple countries with multiple labor forces. American not being one of the top percentages of labor that's being used to
Right.
manufacture this product. So build for tough, yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, yeah, I mean,
Reliable brand. Okay, so
and
we got
and the same.
offshoots of cheaper brands that are not concerned about labor and
Or
um
so we'll say well-known brands that have shifted. I mean, I kind of laugh going back to the time of COVID-19, where we saw all these, African people being put out in the street and blamed for COVID at that time.
right, right, right.
Um,
Which
but
now they've officially said you don't have to wear a mask and something else all officially yesterday as of yesterday. But go
I
ahead,
mean,
let your mom.
what was
Yeah.
very interesting about that particular era for me was that there was such a focus in China to
Right, right.
target Black people. It didn't matter what place in the world you were born. If you were of dark skin, you were being
I
targeted and put out into the street and harassed
I
and
totally forgot
discriminated
about that.
against greatly. And, yet the biggest manufactured and sold product across the world were Air Jordans and
Right,
through Nike. And where's the number one place that these products are manufactured was
right,
in China. And yet Nike did not stand up and do anything for their number one constituents, the customers,
right.
and and never stood up, for their customers. So it really shows you, like, there used to be this standard of, we stand behind our clients, customer service is number one. We're used to that as an American model. That's not a model that carries everywhere else. There's a lot of places where you go and you're like, hey, I'm spending my hard-earned money, and I want you to give me the best customer service. And the attitude is, if you want better customer service, go somewhere else. you know
Right,
so
right.
I think that that is something that we can expect to see more and more in the future. This American standard of customers are right, customer service first, is not going to be, I think, the standard of the future, of the near future, particularly.
Okay, so I know we talked on past shows about, Saudi Arabia building up these major malls, these major
Oh, they're building a
tourist
whole city.
attractions. Right, right. So,
Yeah,
and
Neom
not
is
only,
going to be amazing.
right. So, um, is it just being a tourist city, or are they looking for actual people to be, um, I guess, transplants to the
So
or
like you're talking about immigration. I think that that's an interesting question. I think for this particular place and time, um, a lot of the GCC countries are looking for professionals to come in and help them to build this idea, because that they have a target, a 2030 target, to build these huge ideas. Here in Qatar, they have their plan, their economic, their investment, and their infrastructure building plan. Saudi's doing the same. Dubai is also doing the same. Um, and I can definitely see efforts on the part of Dubai to really, let's say, open up their policies to where it's not just like beneficial only for Muslim citizens, but they're trying to open up ways of living in these regions to attract expats from other countries to want to
right.
come. build their education systems, build their commerce, build their technology and their engineering innovations that they have in mind for the future. I'm starting to see the same things in Saudi, which really shocked me. I mean, they changed their whole policy just after FIFA for Cristiano Ronaldo and his girlfriend to move to their country as a representative for them. And knowing that they're not married, which was what was once called haram, is still
Haram, yeah,
called haram. Yeah,
right. It is right,
just absolutely not allowed
right,
and illegal according to their judicial system for non-married people, no
right,
matter how long they've been committed to each other, no matter how many kids they have, because I can attest to that personally. Um, you have to actually have documentation of being married in order to legally live together without an issue.
right,
And
right,
they, let's say, bent that law for this time being so that he would be interested in taking the contract and living in Saudi as their representative. So there is an expectation that he and his girlfriend will be living together without a problem, without uh, judicial repercussions in their country, in order for him to sign that contract uh, without any issues. So I thought that was very, very uh, interesting for the future of this
I'm a
area,
little,
for future of Saudi.
yeah, but I'm a little concerned about that because don't, in order to bend the Islamic rules, they have to go through a council of elders. Don't they have a council? Like I know the Iran Republic has a council of what's it called? Let me look it up real quick. Yeah, it's a
So,
council.
so let's just say it's already in place and it's already well in the media. The councils agreed.
Oh, so you're saying the councils are agreeing to this little
It's
bend of the
already
law?
agreed. Contract is signed and the move is happening.
And so the people already
So
living there not going to have an issue with that, Nature
whether
Mom?
they have
Or
or whether they have an issue or not, they no longer have any repercussion to it unless
I'm
opinion
confused.
changes at the drop of a hat, which you can
Uh-huh.
expect.
Okay.
And there's some big change, which could put Ronaldo in e- a risk as soon as that change happens, if it happens.
Oh, see, that's what I'm
Um,
concerned about. That's what I'm
and you never
concerned
know.
about.
I mean,
Yeah, I would be a little
you
weary.
never.
I would be very weary of that, Nature Mom, for good reasons. I'm just little, I don't know. I don't know.
But when the country itself, let's say, I think it really shows the system of value.
Uh-huh.
When they value you, what you can give to them, then there's a willing to bend. But what happens when you're no longer valuable to them? I think
Right.
that
That's a
that is an
little,
interesting
yeah,
conversation.
that's a
And
little
like you
risque.
said, it really, because policy one day that can be switched another day can be switched back
Yeah.
even another
That's
day.
that's very high
and
risk.
and that's the risk that they're all willing to take at this point.
No.
Would I personally take that risk? No, I wouldn't personally take that risk. I'm not a gambler. Gone to Las Vegas many times and never spent a dime on gambling.
Right.
I like things are much more secure,
Right.
but that's the risk and the gamble that this current government and Christian Ronaldo have taken. They're taking that risk. Um, Not a risk I'm willing to take. No,
Not, no, I don't think that's.
no.
I really personally don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's wise. I think
Ev- Everybody
you
has to make
know
their choices.
he's taking Brittany Griner chances there, and I don't think that's very wise.
And I think that that is a really good point of view when we're talking about where labor and economics is going in the future.
Right.
You have, those who are in the position to employ seem to have ultimate power. And at any whim can change the policies of that power at whenever they see fit.
Any given
You know,
time.
and that's kind of the that's the nature of the beast. We really, when you talk about labor reform, this is the thing that would concern me the most, is like being able to say, um you have parameters that you are able to change the policies that we're agreeing to. And this works within this area. Let's take it back, you guys. Let's take it back to indentured servanthood. People forget about the slaves before the prisoners of war of Africa, right? There were indentured slaves, servants, slaves, who came from Europe. They were the poor, they were the criminals. These are the people who had no economic viability in their home countries. So they were promised opportunities when they came to United States. And basically what happened was that these promises were, you will gain, a certain amount of acres of land for every year that you work as a slave for me. And what these elites, property owners were doing was they were working these people to death and beating them
Hmm.
in the meanwhile to make sure that they didn't make it to their 7 years of labor. And that's
Damn,
where you
what
had
the
the
hell?
first revolt.
Yeah.
So I always say, history doesn't always repeat itself, but it rhymes a lot.
Right.
So when we look at this rhyming theme over time, we still have the elites who get to set the rules that works for them, and then you have the laborers who take whatever crumbs are left
Right.
and really don't really realize what their value is in the whole circle
Hmm.
of that system. And I think that that's what Karl Marx was talking about, when he talked about this evolution of laborers realizing the value and coming to some equal stance that their labor is what makes these people wealthy. And I think that we still live in a world that brainwashes that out of us, and that helps us to not understand that without our labor we won't be able to these corporations won't be able to exploit us the way that they do. What are they
Right.
going to do? Work it themselves? But what they're doing now is that as we are educating ourselves, as we're becoming more savvy just through the natural evolution of living through these laws generation by generation, and information being passed to us, whether through our schools or not, through our
Right.
families, then we know that what our value is as laborers. And what this progression of labor has been showing us is that the same progression that has happened in the past is that once you start to realize what your value is, and all the corporations have to do is find a labor pool
Hmm.
that values the labor, that they will have a job versus how much they will actually receive for that job versus what you want to receive for that job. If you can get educated, hardworking, available, or even unskilled, and still someone get the job done so that your shareholders will get their dividends and not drop your stock market value, then you're willing to take the undereducated over the let me put this clearly, the trained, so meaning educated, even if it's not through the scholastic system, but the
Hmm.
trained prisoners, the trained labor of United States, the trained way of working together in a workforce and in a team way, which doesn't happen as clearly in other parts of the world. You will bypass that just to have the body in place, so that business will move forward as usual, because
Right.
eventually what's going to happen is, if you bring in the trained force, they're going to ask for more compensation for the value of their work. If you take the uneducated, but let's say if you take the unskilled,
Unskilled,
yet
right.
yet showing some type of education on paper, um, bring them into the country as your labor force, derail a couple of trains, kill a few babies, but eventually you're going to have your, labor force at least bring your profit margins, to the baseline where your
Right.
your shareholders are going to get, their money back. You would take that chance over someone who's going to expect more upfront per hour for the
Right.
labor that they're presenting, even if they could
Absolutely.
bypass, the casualties and the damages upfront. So,
Um, Real quick, there was a situation here in Florida where they busted a whole bunch of I don't even want to say Nigerian, but let's just say African nurses with false certifications. But my thing is, there was somebody to get them to that point. It's just like how people say, "Oh, illegal aliens." Somebody telling these people that these jobs are available. So apparently, what? Oh, talk to me, nature mind. What gon' go? What one day? What one day? That's the Jamaican say. What one? What one day?
okay, I'll put it this way. You were asking me about my face, because my face had this horrible breakout last week.
Uh
And as I'm in pain, when, because we think it's a chemical reaction, maybe even a mixture of chemical and bacterial or fungal.
huh.
And, as my family's watching me suffer through this pain and
Right.
watching my face burn off, because last week, wow, you guys wouldn't believe how I looked. um, the question was, can we take you to the hospital today? And even through my pain, I kept saying, give me 5 minutes. And yes, all of the treatment that I did, I mean, I mean, Blackson, you saw the photos. It
Right.
was completely inflamed, burnt off. It was horrible. And I'm back to, I mean, it's not completely healed yet, but I'm back to my normal face,
Right.
after a week. And so everybody kept asking me, why didn't you just go to the hospital?
Right.
Maybe a professional has to look at it. And my response was and remains,
Right.
I'm probably the most professional of all of them. you know, so
Wow.
I would take
Wow.
my chances with me. Um,
Right.
and I just couldn't, I looked at the options that would be offered. Why did I take that stance? Is because very regularly, outside of highly regulated places, and you're talking about a place that is highly regulated, and you found this situation. Places that are not highly regulated, and having third, fourth, fifth party, agencies, doing quality standard, you find that all the time, all
Right.
the
Right.
time.
Right.
Doctors who are not doctors. People who you're
Oh
like,
wow. What
who,
the
you
hell?
don't know where those papers came from. And,
So you're
I
saying
mean,
this is what happened in Florida is a common practice there in the Qatar as just same. Uh oh. He
many
said
places
same.
around the
Right.
world. You have people who are presenting degrees that they did not earn, who are presenting
Right.
education that they do not know. And I'm not putting my health or my children's health at risk to try to figure out on my own who has legitimate documentation and who does not.
Wait, are you saying that these African women did not come up with these documents? Somebody's at the top of that food chain producing these fake documents? Is that what you're telling me, Nature Mom?
I'm telling you that in many areas around the world, in this region of the world, in even further, reaches of the world, are presenting documentation that cannot be legitified, and you are putting yourself and your family at high risk because you don't have a way of verifying that documentation.
Oh wow. Because I'm wondering how they even found out in Florida. But I mean, apparently you have seen, and I think Empress has said it's same in Saudi Arabia. Wow, rich country. Saudi Arabia got some screwed up hospitals. Oh
You
wow.
I think that like the biggest issue is not that they're I don't even think they're trying to present screwed up hospitals, but there's just such an under regulation of
Uh huh.
really knowing the standard of these documentations and being able to verify clearly. There's
Right.
all these steps, but every step of the way we're finding you can always pay somebody off to legitimize, you know, these documents for you, uh, according to the standard that the country is asking for. So, how do you know that that document is legit?
Okay, so GTO, she's in the chat right now. GTO had presented this article to me in El Paso, Texas, where one of the ICE ICE patrol guards was being deported himself, and I'm like, wait a minute, hold a minute, wait a. But most of the
Uh,
people, first of all, how did he get hired on? And then who didn't check his documentations, and who did he cross or screw over to get deported? So I'm like, wait a minute, there must be a whole. My theory was, and people joked and said, well, there's nothing but Mexicans that are working there. Most of your ICE
I mean,
patrol are actually Mexican.
I think that like it goes back to our overall conversation of the entire evening, or morning in your case.
Uh-huh.
Um, who are we hiring, and how are we legitimizing their qualifications, and are we hiring them just because we can pay a lower cost point, per hour,
Right.
or are we hiring them because they are the professionals that are going to deliver the service that we're promising? And I think that that is the overall question. Um, we know that even in our American education system, I mean, how many decades now have they been hiring non-teachers in the Los Angeles, in
Right. Yeah.
other school systems, because
Right.
they had an under shortage of teachers. So you're taking people with any degree and giving them an emergency credential, and they have no training whatsoever of how to actually use methodology to get information across to your children. And yet
Hmm.
we wonder why we have such a high dropout rate. We wonder
Hmm.
why we have such an under education rate. Why do we have so many people who are leaving the high school system, either shorthanded leaving, meaning they left the system before graduating, or those who are graduating, and
Okay.
universities were saying, stop sending us these kids that don't know anything,
Right.
and so this is not a new issue, and it's not even an issue that is under the standard of America itself. This is an issue that has been undermining on every area of education and employment, since education and employment has been a public institution,
Right.
or even let's say a private institution as well, for the sake of financial gain for the small percentage who are making the actual money versus those who are just earning a living, to make it from one day to the next. I do think that this is an issue that should be uh, addressed on the highest level of leadership. I do think that the people who should be indicted are not the people who got away with it, for the amount of time and then caught, like the Nigerian nurses who are probably going to get indicted. But what about the leadership of the hospitals that employed them?
Right.
What about the I-9s and the IRS forms that they had to fill out? Come on, we all know that. So you're telling me that no one suspected that this documentation was illegitimate, and so it's the nurse's fault, that they got employed with illegitimate documentation and got away with it for so long. Impossible.
Mm,
Not if you have an efficient, system in place. And when we're talking about healthcare, healthcare works the same in the United States as it works with education. Even if you're private, you're still getting a portion of your funding from the federal government. So that means the CEO of the hospital itself should be considered for indictment of fraud.
wow. Yeah, that's real talk. Nature bomb. So solutions.
Okay. We have to come up with them quick because I got I gotta
Okay,
go.
no problem. I
But
know. Yeah,
yeah,
I know.
yeah,
That's why I saw the time. I said, okay, we got to come with some
yeah.
solutions real quick because
So
yeah.
what are some solutions here? Like what's your question for solutions? Should we indict them all and get it over with? Absolutely.
Okay, that's one end, but how do we help the laborers? How do we help
Hmm.
the jobs and the economies? How do we help our people first?
There's only one way, you guys. I mean, it comes back down to, every other level of a society. We help others by creating the environments that we think are viable ourselves. So working together to create opportunities from within the United States I used to appreciate the term buy American. Um,
Right,
Now, if you're buying American, make sure that it's not a company that's putting American on the label and then outsourcing all of their labor outside because it's not truly American. You know, but let's say if England, if you're buying a product that is made in England, then you
right,
you have accountability on every single level that makes sure that that product is made in England, is to that English quality, is to the English standard. It is employed by English people. It is owned by English owners. Because let's be honest, other companies in other countries are doing it. I love that they're
right.
doing it. Here, there's this huge movement made in Qatar. And I think that it's just right for
Wow.
Qatar.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's just right. They are making sure on every level that their people are taken care of. We've talked about it before. In order to even be an expat company here, you have to have a Qatar
Right.
leader. So they have to own 51% of your company. And they're doing that to
Wow.
make sure that their people are getting an income for everything that's coming in. Smart tactics, very smart for the country. I think that
How do
if
we implement something like that here in the U.S.? I guess like because people they'll because I mean I think Trump President Trump said America first, and people called him a racist, made in America, and they
um
called him a racist.
I mean, I let's
Whoa.
there's so much in the media that is so propagandized in the United States, especially.
Right.
Uh, you know, we've seen a lot of. I'm sorry, when I saw, for George Floyd's memorial, a bunch of Democrats wearing, kente cloth and dashikis and stuff in order to, give homage to his death,
Right.
by their militia. I want to throw up, because
Right.
first of
Right.
all, he's, not Kenyan, which where the kente cloths come from. If you knew
Right.
something about what that cloth actually means, it's very tribal, it's very specific to regions, not only regions but to
Right.
tribes. And to have all of these American Democrats wear kente cloths to honor his death was not only a slap in the face to Kenyans, but it was also a slap in the face to Black Americans,
Right.
and really showed that the underlying statement there is that all Black people just look alike. And so, yeah, I was very
You
offended
mean
by it
all the
personally.
niggers look alike?
And all Black people,
All
so yeah,
the
that's
black
basically
nigger.
what that message was. They're all
Okay.
Black, so if you want to just wear a loincloth and run around with feathers in your hair singing Shaka Zulu songs, that's basically what they were saying, and quite offensively. So, if we want to see something move forward, I think that it's very interesting what some movements of businesses are doing. Now, is it on a large scale right now? Not at all, but there are some ethical businesses out there. They're choosing fair trade only. They're choosing now. Does it hurt their cost point? What they're actually going to gain in the end? Of selling their product, yes, they're not going to make the highest amount of profit possible on these products, but what's interesting is what these companies are standing for in a moral sense and in a humanitarian sense,
Right.
that businesses should have some level of ethical responsibility. And I think that's very interesting. Would I spend 10 cents to a dollar more to pay for ethics in the long run over exploitation? Absolutely. I would spend that extra money, instead of spending the extra money on a product that's called organic and has nothing to do with organics whatsoever.
Right.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
I'm paying into, I'm giving the vote with my dollars for the type of businesses that I would like to see last in the long run. And I would like to support those companies that actually stand for people, no matter where they're from. As an ethical, like, you know, pillar of standard,
Yes.
versus a company, sorry, that is trying to only make sure that their shareholders are making the highest, profit margins possible.
Right. Damn. All right. Well, Nature Mom, man, good discussion. Great topic.
Missed you guys.
I wish, yeah, and I wish we could have had. I really wish we could have had Rule Breaker because I know this is something that she's very passionate about prison reform and all that. So, um,
Anytime,
yeah,
anytime. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, maybe we
exactly.
can get her on. I know that there's a
Yeah,
lot going on right now, because she's finishing her
yeah,
degree,
yeah, yeah, that's right.
and so this is the final
Crunch
stretch of
time. Yeah,
her, yeah, of
absolutely,
her
absolutely.
right before her next graduation. So congratulations and big shout out to Rule Breaker, because it takes a lot to do what you're doing, and
Absolutely.
to let's say, break the barriers of statistics. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And real quick, Nature Mom. So I know, like I said, schedule is not a big thing there in Qatar. So I
Uh,
guess
but I didn't realize earlier would work better for you. So if you could do earlier, we could shoot for earlier.
okay. I mean, I can go as early as 8 o'clock my time, which is I think what we started at. No, no, we started. Yeah, we started at 8. No, we think we started at 8 this morning. Yeah.
Oh, can I say Ada? Okay. So if we
Okay.
could do that, that works for me, because it
Okay.
would be before the other things that need to be, the
Okay.
new
That's fine.
things in life that are responsibilities.
Okay.
So if we could go earlier,
Okay.
I
That's
can get
fine.
in earlier.
Okay. So
I'm an
yeah.
early bird. I believe at waking up at 5 a.m. So
Cool. Okay. I
yeah,
do too.
yeah,
So okay. So we'll shoot for 8 o'clock next Sunday.
next Sunday.
And yeah, and shout out to the family. Shout out to Rue. Shout out
Thank you,
to
thank you,
shout out to
thank
the whole
you,
family. Yeah. Shout
thank
out to
you.
them.
They
Yeah.
also love the show. They
Good.
they
Good. Yeah.
enjoy
Yeah.
it. Yeah, the whole crew.
Good. Good.
A
Good.
few people. Big shout outs to Polish viewers out there who've been chiming in.
Yep.
Really nice to see you guys here in the conversation. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, labor is a big thing. It's something worldwide. We need to. I mean, that's the backbone of every country is are the workers. So
Well, and what's the globalization is what's interesting, because the
yeah,
globalization is happening. It's been happening for a long time. It's just much more obvious now, and it's not going to stop. So I think people are really in a misconception that their jobs are going to be secure in the regional
right.
sectors. No, it's not
Yeah.
going to be that way in the future at all. And now we're competing with AI.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like your fast food. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Because
not just fast
there's
food. I mean, even musicians, artists,
oh, that's
visual
right.
artists.
Yeah, yeah. That's right.
Let's not forget the one of the biggest art competitions was just won by AI until they realized it was AI art. and it really, yeah, was a huge upset.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is an
So, yeah,
dang.
business, everything is being, regulated and, you know, um, operated through ideas
Mhm.
generated from AI. So yeah, we're in a huge competition right now. So
Damn.
it's not we're not just competing against countries anymore, or let's say nationals versus immigrants, and
Right.
and expats. We're really dealing with artificial intelligence now, which is smarter than most of us.
But who? Yeah, I remember. Oh gosh, don't even get me started with the AI.
We'll
But
have
you
to save
need.
it for next time, huh?
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, we'll do that. We'll do that because I
Yeah,
have a
no,
very interesting take, and you're right. We could do a whole nother show on that. So yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. All right.
absolutely.
Well,
All right.
thank you, Nature Mom. Let me give
Thank
some shout
you.
outs. Yes. And next week at 8, y'all be here next week at 8. Remember, on your way out, if y'all haven't hit the like already, hit that like and share. Most of y'all have already subscribed. I already know that. But just hit that like button. Like I said, I've seen numerous people in the clouds. I want those like to match those people watching.
I heard that.
So,
Like,
yeah.
like, like.
Yeah, hit the like button. And later on, I think MD is going to do a presentation. So y'all stay tuned for that. Um, Monday, we're going to have a discussion on because there was supposed to be a debate last night and it didn't happen. So I know Trevor, we're going to have a talk about that. So um, yeah. Thank you, Nature Mom. Like I said, next week at 8 a.m. my time, which adjusted to your time. Everybody adjusted time accordingly. So we started at 8 today. So whatever time in England, Poetic Empress set it to that time. And everybody else that sees this, and I know there's some people still like in Yame who still sleep. He's in Texas. Just know that
Huh.
this is the time we're coming on. So yeah, it's still early in other parts of the United
And
States.
yeah,
So
yes,
yeah, so that's
yes,
why
like early
yeah,
hour.
so that's why you didn't see like in Yami because he's in Texas, so it's still
Ah,
early,
okay.
early there. Yeah. So
Got
yeah,
it,
we
got
trying
it.
to we try to adjust to where everybody can partake. And I
I
think MD is still asleep because he's been driving all
ah
day. So yeah, so but he's gonna be doing the show
well,
later on.
we
Yeah.
got. I'm gonna have to figure out something in the future because I'm really missed the whole crew. So
Right. Right.
just give me some time to work this out, and we'll see what time we can work out a little bit better in the near future.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. GTO. We'll talk about that on Monday. We'll deal with that situation. Like I said, people last night were kind of upset about the whole. I know Trevor's upset, so we'll talk about it. Things happen, y'all. Real life happens. So okay. So shout out to Poetic Empress, Gynocracy, Deacon, Evizzle. Shout out to who else we got? Shout out to Yanga. Shout out to Twin. Shout out to Deacon. Shout out to who else was in here? I don't want to miss anybody because we had a full house. Man, if I
Love
missed
it.
anybody, I do apologize because man, y'all. Oh, Juju. Shout out to Juju. Yeah, you guys were in this damn comment section. I mean, they lit it up. They
Oh,
literally,
nice.
so I can't even. Yeah. Okay. So shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody in the cloud. Double shout out to everybody that hit the like button
Yeah.
because we have like 24 people and only like 3 likes, and I'm like, come on, y'all, really, seriously, come on, man. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything.
Share the
All right.
love. Share the
Yeah.
love.
Share. Hit the like button. It's free.
Uh, uh,
Hit the like
yeah,
button. It's free, y'all. So hey, shout out to
yeah.
everybody. Like I said, we will see you 8 o'clock next week, Nature
Love
Mom,
it. Love it.
and we are out, y'all. Peace. Where's the closeout button? The Arena House.